All right, everybody. Well, what a introduction. I've never actually preached on a stage with a Budweiser can on it, so this is a first. It is such a massive privilege to be with you. I have a wife at home named Jill and two little boys. One of them is very little. He's 2 weeks old as of Wednesday, and we said yes to me coming and being here before we got pregnant, and then got pregnant, and everyone has been wondering if I just left them at the hospital and abandoned ship and that whole thing. And I just want to just qualify this. We sat and talked together, and my wife was really just adamant about me coming and trying to serve you well. And we made a condition with the guys here at Commission that when the baby came, if Jill was healthy and the baby was healthy, we'd come. Or I'd come. So that's what's happened. They're back at home. So I've got my wife and my two little boys, and I miss them lots, but I'm really glad to be with you. It's not just hard for me to talk about what's happened in our town. It's hard for me to even hear about it because it's just mind-blowing. And I don't stand up here with the classic American, let me tell you all the answers so you too can have a big church. I'm really deeply humbled. I mean, we didn't need a big church to feel like God loved us. We knew He loved us. And God in His kindness has just done something phenomenal. And if I can, any way, shape, or form, encourage you and in regards of that, I'd love a chance to do that. Tonight we're going to talk very big picture, very much your heart, what's going on in your heart, and what's going on in the heart of your church. And then tomorrow, there's one of those seminars in the morning. We'll get really practical in case some of this stuff you want more question and answer. I'm going to commit to talking short tomorrow morning so that there's time for Q&A if you'd like to. So, that's a little bit about me. And one of the things I'm most passionate about in my whole life is missions. I'm very passionate about it. I worked at a missions organization. I led trips for 10 years overseas, India, Sri Lanka, Southern Africa, Central America, wherever. I was really passionate. I was convinced that I was going to live my life in the 1040 window or in a part of rural Southern Africa working with HIV/AIDS victims. I was just absolutely 100% convinced of this. I was so convinced that being a white guy from Southern North Carolina in America, I was learning Zulu. And I don't know that if you can make the connection, but where I'm from, no one really, it's not like a class we can take, like in school. You can't necessarily go and learn Zulu. But I just was so convinced this is what I was going to do with my life. And then as Matt said, the story took this strange, weird twist where I ended up right back in my hometown. And I used to just dread the thought of going back there. I just thought for sure I was going to end up in Mongolia or somewhere really exciting. And why am I back in boring North Carolina? And don't get me wrong, our town is awesome. I mean, we do a lot of things that I would brag about, but you might frown upon. We kill lots of animals, but we do eat them. We're very passionate about that. And it's an awesome place to live, but it doesn't sound exciting when you think about missiology and missions and all the rest. And I tell you, what I didn't realize was this wicked thing in my heart that had gone on where I had begun to value one type of person over another type of person. And God just has really dealt with me, and so I want to talk a little bit about that tonight. I think one of the first things that we think about is, when we think about mission, we typically think about going. And it's a real reality. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about going. One of our favorite verses, and I love your name too. I really love it. I love Commission. There's meaning, there's weight, there's purpose. It just speaks of all these things that we all love and resonate with. But we think of the Great Commission, in Matthew 28, when Jesus says that he says, go, therefore, go with this authority. He speaks with just such authority. Go and make disciples of all nations, all ethnos, all people groups. I mean, it's passionate, it's real, and it seems very straightforward. And many of us have a real rich legacy of doing that, of doing missions to the end of the earth, as we just celebrated and worshiped and thanked God for. This sense in which we could go to the ends of the earth with this great gospel was such a huge privilege and such a huge mandate. And I'm in no way looking to argue against that tonight. In fact, I'm hoping for my brothers and sisters who have gone out and are in distant nations and are watching this or are here tonight hearing this, I'm hoping that you're encouraged by this too. But the real reality is that it's so subtle and so easy to miss something very massive. And that's the fact that many of us actually won't go geographically somewhere else. And what can often happen is we can buy into the concept of the idea that what mission looks like for us is writing checks and sending them in the mail. We can buy into the concept that what mission really is occasionally we'll get together and we'll pray for the people who've gone. And those things are incredibly important and really valuable. In fact, we should do it more than we already do. But there's something massive we're missing when we think mission is only something that happens over there. Not here. Let me read a very odd passage of the Bible, especially if you're here or you're watching this and you're not a Christian, you're new to the Bible. This is going to seem very strange to you that it's in the Bible, but it's there. Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 20. They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes, and when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. He lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with a chain. For he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart and he broke the shackles in pieces. I mean, this is a fierce man. No one had the strength to subdue him. Add to that, night and day, among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. Imagine living within earshot of this. Imagine having kids and what they're going to bed at night hearing is the screams of a demon-possessed man torturing himself. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran, fell down before him, and crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you, by God, do not torment me." For he was saying to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Now, if I'm one of Jesus' disciples, I'm thinking, this just got serious. Right? This is worse than we thought it was. This is a pretty creepy thing to hear. There's a legion of demons inside of this man, and it carries on. And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside, and they begged him, saying, "Send us to the pigs. Let us enter them." So he gave them permission, and the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea, where they were drowned in the sea. The herdsmen, the owners of the pigs, fled and told it in the city and in the country. And people came to see what had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had had the legion, sitting there, clothed and in his right mind. And they were afraid. It's interesting that this is the point where they're afraid. It's not the legion demons. They're afraid now that this situation has been turned around. And those who had seen it described it to them, this crowd that's gathered, what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs. They're telling him, look what happened to this man, look what happened to this pigs. One of the most haunting verses, I think, in the Bible is this next one. And they begin to beg Jesus to depart from their region. The crowd chose the pigs over the man. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed with the demons begged him that he might be with him. He begged Jesus, "Please, let me go with you." And he, Jesus, he did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled. Now, this is a heck of a story, and I know that you look at me and you see the beard and you hear the story. There's a naked guy and pigs dying, and you think, that's pretty much what we expected, right? We pretty much expected that's the passage in the Bible that you would find to talk about. But there's a lot here that's really good for us. And so just remember this whole thing of mission, commission, all that we're talking about. The first good reminder we see is that Jesus is in control of his mission. It's his mission, and he's in control of it, right? And we're going to fix our gaze on the last few verses this evening. And I want to just show us the power of Jesus. All of us almost instantly see the power of Jesus as he commands a legion of demons to do what he wants them to do. It's incredibly powerful. All he has to do is just show up and start talking, and they're trembling in fear and begging for mercy. I mean, he's incredibly powerful, but we easily miss the other power that we see that Jesus operates in, which is Jesus commanding this man. This guy meets Jesus at the boat, and he's begging to be with Jesus. I mean, if you're a pastor or a minister in the room or watching this, imagine that you've seen this happen. You're wanting to applaud this guy. This is exactly what we want people to do. We want people to come to Jesus and to beg to be with him. Let me be in your boat, Jesus. I want to be in Jesus' boat. We'd probably write a song about it. This is the thing we get really excited about. Isn't this what Jesus even wanted? Didn't he want people in his boat? Didn't he want them to follow him? I mean, doesn't he want this? I mean, look at him calling his first disciples in Matthew 4, 18 through 22. It says these first disciples leave their nets and follow Jesus. Then they leave the boat and their father, they follow Jesus. Isn't this the pattern that Jesus is establishing, that people are to leave everything and to go and follow him wherever he goes? Isn't this what he wants? Well, it's not what happened this time, right? Jesus did not permit him. Now this is a bit of the phrase that we have in America is a record scratch moment. It's this kind of like the something goes wrong in the record player and the party goes quiet. This is a bit like that scenario, right? Jesus wanted his disciples to be with him. Again, Mark 3:14, Jesus, he tells these apostles, these sent ones, that he appointed them to be with him. And then goes on to tell them, which is interesting, that they were going to cast out demons. His disciples, who had never been possessed by demons, were going to cast out demons. Now, I think it's at least interesting to think that if I was, say, Peter, and had never been possessed by demons, and now I'm going to supposedly go cast out demons, I'm going to be telling Jesus, I think we need this guy. Right? I think this is a good guy you could have around. He's had them all. And I think it's at least worth considering what his opinion could be like, right? Because we might mess with the wrong demon, right? Or we might come across one that talks a good game, but actually this guy could tell us that he's all talk. He really, there's nothing really there. I mean, in fact, every time we came across a demon-possessed guy, who better to deal with him, right? What's massive is that this phrase, he did not permit him, it literally means he sent him away. Jesus sent him away. Now, what that sounds like the first time we hear it, it sounds like rejection. It sounds like Jesus is having a bad day, woke up on the less compassionate side of the bed, and has just decided, for once, he's just not into it. He's just not feeling it, right? He just can't handle one more mouth to feed, right? And so he just sends them away. That's what we think. We just think, oh, he's like a dog. He just sends them away. Not another stray. I just can't take it. But that's not what Jesus is doing. Jesus is not rejecting this man. Jesus is redirecting this man. Jesus isn't rejecting his passion, his testimony, what's happened. He is redirecting it. He is redirecting it. And we don't know everything. We don't know why this guy wanted to leave. I mean, maybe he needed to be redirected. Maybe his reasons were terrible. I mean, just like some of us, we can go somewhere geographically. We can go to Mongolia. We could go to, Africa. We could go to the Middle East, and we could call it mission. But Jesus, the Lord of the mission, knows better. I mean, he knows if we're going because things back home have gotten tough. We've gotten offended. We're sick of waiting for the elders to see the clear call of the Lord. Maybe we've been found out. Looks can be very deceiving. Someone can go to the uttermost parts of the world and we can applaud them, but their hearts could be terribly wicked. I mean, Jonah went to Tarshish. That's the end of the earth in his day. And it wasn't a good going. And someone can be staying, doing exactly what God has called them to do, glorifying God. To God, the heart more than location makes all the difference. But historically, at least in the country I come from, we've really applauded the ones who go overseas as the only people really do anything worth doing. And the fact of the matter is, when we read the Bible, we see that Jesus didn't always tell people to go somewhere else geographically. So let's carry on in the story. What does Jesus do? He tells this man, go home to your friends. The first part there, go home. Again, it sounds a bit like rejection. Right? Go, however, to go is to go under someone's authority. So Jesus is commissioning this man. You're called commission. Jesus is commissioning. He is commissioning this man to go. So he's saying, go under my authority, and he says, go home. Now, the home wasn't a building with 4 walls. He wasn't telling this guy, go under my authority, the authority of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Go home and try not to sin until I come back, and play video games and some, but not too much, and just try to stay pure, and I'll be back eventually. That's not the authority that Jesus is using here, saying, go under my authority. He says to go home, and that home was an inhabited place. He's literally saying, go back to your family. He carries on and says, go to your friends, verse 19. Your friends, your very own people, the people in your area, the people who know you by name, the people who know who you are, who saw you grow up, who watched you as you messed up again and again and again. Those people, go to those people. Go home to your friends and your family. Go under my authority. I'm sending you to them. This wasn't meant to be some timeshare presentation, some cheesy used car salesman, impersonal, just kind of, knock on the door to door. This was meant to be something where people go and they knew him already. And Jesus carries on and says, tell them what happened to you. It's powerful. Jesus doesn't say to this man, go home under my authority to your family and your friends and tell them a really great testimony you heard on the radio. Tell them about something you heard from someone else at church. Tell them a clever anecdote you read. Jesus said, I want you to go home to those people who know you, who've always known you, and I want you to tell them what's happened to you. And he specifies it. He says, tell them what the Lord has done for you, the Master, the Lord, the ruler, what he's done for you. Personal experience. This man didn't have some mediocre, quasi-spiritual, quasi-consumeristic experience with some Dr. Phil, Oprah character. He met the Lord. He encountered the Lord. He had an experience with the Lord. And Jesus says, tell them how you met the Lord and how he had mercy on you. How he didn't reject you. He had mercy on you. That word mercy, it means to pity. You know what's troubling about this is because when you tell someone you got pity, you're simultaneously admitting that you needed pity. That's why it's hard for us to do. It's easier for us to tell people, well, we're going to church. Well, I've had that big trouble with cussing, or I've been a bit angry and I just felt like it could, help. It's easier to make it sound like self-help. Like we initiated this process of making ourselves better people. We like to tell that story better because it's easier, it makes us look better. But that's not the story. That's not a gospel story. That might be the reason you're going to church, but it's not a gospel reason. What we didn't need help. We needed mercy. We didn't just need a surface level, shallow, couple quick points, just a bit of a turn in the right direction. We needed a Savior. And to say we got pity means we needed pity. We were pitiful. He said, go home and tell these people I was pitiful, but he pitied me. Tell them that you met the Lord and he saw you in your most broken state. We like to clean ourselves up. Imagine you're going to go meet someone important. What would you wear, you might think? What would I wear? How would I do my hair? I got to get a haircut. I definitely need to get a new outfit. He meets the King of Kings and he's naked. He's broken. Can you picture him? Bleeding, all cut up from inflicted injuries, scars from all the other times he cut himself. Imagine someone finding you like that. How embarrassing. He met the King of Kings, and he looked like that. And he wasn't rejected, he was given mercy. And Jesus, I believe, is encouraging this man to open his eyes, wants him to open his eyes. What the man was missing as he was begging to get in the boat, let me get in the boat, let me get in the boat. It's almost like, it's like those moments where you're talking about someone, saying things you shouldn't, and you're telling someone and that person's got this awkward look on their face, and you start to realize that the reason they're looking at that way is because that person is directly behind you, right? Have you ever done that, or is it just me? It's like this guy is begging Jesus, clinging to the boat, clenching the bow, begging him, please let me go with you. And it's like almost Jesus wants to just say, would you just turn around? Would you just have a look behind you? You don't see the whole city and the whole countryside have gathered to see this? You're missing this incredible opportunity that I've just given you, and you want to leave it? You want to abandon this crowd of people who've all been brought together because of you, what I've done to you, and you just want to just take off? This man was missing. He was missing what the disciples missed and the woman at the well. And Jesus had to tell them, look, the fields are white with harvest. Look around you. And even then, the people from the countryside had been coming to see Jesus because of the woman's testimony. This man was blind to the mission. He was blind to what was happening. His possession of demons and his freedom from demons had not happened in some closed office with whale sounds and raindrops playing in the background. It had happened in the most public setting possible. His story had literally gone viral. That's the equivalent of what we've got going on here. And the thing is that you and I, we are so quick to personalize what Jesus has done for us. Very rare do you find someone telling the raw story of what they were like when Jesus showed up. We doctored up a bit. We're nervous to kind of expose ourselves. We almost feel like this is a private thing. You know, he's my personal savior, and he's your personal savior, but this isn't private. It's meant to be public, what Jesus has done for you and I. No amount of, memorizing the right spiritual laws and the right tactics for evangelism, none of those things will replace someone hearing you tell your story vulnerably of how you received mercy. Jesus then sends him running into mission, not from mission. Everyone had heard what had happened. Even if they just heard bits and pieces, it was enough to get them moving, to get them gathered around him. And Jesus wouldn't let him run away from that. He was going to send him into it. And so this is what happens. It says that this man, he went away and began to what? Began to sulk in the corner. Oh, what are you so sad about? Oh, Jesus wouldn't let me get in the boat. That was the ministry. I really felt led to do that, and Jesus wouldn't let me. No, he doesn't pull some silly stunt like that. He begins to proclaim, and that is to announce, to herald, to declare. It's a crier in the street. It's meant to be more than that. It's meant to be connected to context. And what I mean is that the announcement is not meant to be like a newscaster tearlessly talking about some tragedy that's happened in some other part of the world. I mean, imagine a tsunami hits and the news comes on, the guy just reads about it, no emotion, talking about all the lives lost and all the pain and all the destruction, and then he moves right along to a cat being stuck in someone's tree like there's no difference between the two. It'd be very weird and inappropriate. This proclamation of the gospel, this proclaiming what Jesus has done is meant to be full of emotion, because it's not theory, it's not what happened to someone else, it's what happened to me. Imagine seeing this man, tears running down his face. I was that man. Your kids, you know how they're scared to go to sleep at night? You know why? Because of the screaming they heard. That's me. That was me. And Jesus has had mercy on me. He went away and began to proclaim it. And the result is just so straightforward and just obvious. Everyone marveled. That's what it says in verse 20. Everyone marveled. People are blown away. I mean, some are in awe. Some are probably even speculating over it. But no one's left with this sense of, well, that seems true for you, but it's not true for me and all this. There's none of that. Because they know this guy. There's no way it's true for you, not true. It's true for all of us. We knew what you were like, and we see now. Something happened to you. People were undone. The naked, demon-possessed man who had cut himself and terrified everyone had received healing and mercy. Now, as we look to consider how we should respond, there's at least two groups of people that are here tonight or watching this. The first group, maybe you look like the man who was possessed by demons before Jesus showed up. Maybe that sounds like you, bound, chained. Everyone's tried to help you. Your family's given up on you. They've given you the last money they're going to give you. They've taken you to the last clinic they're going to take you to. They just don't have anything else to do. They just have given up on you. Your friends, they've just walked away. You're just hopeless. You're unsavable. What does Jesus do? This is an incredible story because sometimes we can imagine that Jesus comes down from heaven and he floats right down onto a stage and he just has a big praise and worship concert and does a big talk and then just floats. It's easy for us to miss, without really getting into these stories, the nitty-gritty ministry that Jesus did. Most of us, we've seen people like this man. Maybe you've visited a large city or another country and you've seen people who look like him, and we know the rules. There's rules that we all know the rules. You walk on the other side of the street. You don't make eye contact. If you're a lady, you hold your purse. If you're a guy, you maybe pretend to have a gun. I think this is what you do if you have a gun. We know what to do. We know all the rules. And in fact, if the guy starts to kind of make eye contact, you can turn and go the other way and then pick up the pace. And you're thinking, where's the closest police station, right? We know the rules, and Jesus broke all of them. He saw this guy, and he ran right into a situation. Jesus encountered this man. Jesus ran into his broken, shameful situation. Jesus didn't just encounter him like, oh, I'm going to get a good photo with this guy. This will make a great selfie. Me and a naked demon-possessed guy, you know. Be great for the website. We'll have to censor it out, obviously, but it'll be good. He doesn't just encounter him. He engages him. He engages in dialogue with him. Jesus clearly wants in on this man's pain. Jesus doesn't want to observe it, take notes, speculate with his disciples. How do you think it happened? It was probably a Ouija board. This is why we don't do this. This is the danger of the internet. This is why, you shouldn't watch TV. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that we would all probably be doing. Jesus just jumps right into this man's life. He wants in. He doesn't just encounter him. He doesn't just engage him. This isn't just sympathy. Jesus delivers him. Jesus has the power to do something about the situation, and Jesus uses his power to do something about the situation. It's incredible. I mean, Jesus could have given the guy some tough love. What if Jesus would have said, hey, look, I've heard your story, but here's the thing. You got yourself into this, and you're never going to learn unless you get yourself out. And the cliches, when you dug this hole, the first thing you do is just put down the shovel. We could work through a whole lot of scenarios that would have been good, tough love. Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus just delivers him. He doesn't lash him for whatever he did to get in the situation. He just delivers him. The other thing that Jesus does, it's so easy to miss, is Jesus places incredible value on him. Now, I passed some pig farms on the way down here, so clearly I'm not the only person in the world who loves bacon. Clearly it's a worldwide, possibly, phenomenon. And what happens here is 2,000 pigs rush down into the water, and there's got to be some guy on the banks who looks like me, wondering, can we still salvage these things? I mean, all we need is a really strong rope, and where there's a will, there's a way. We could get this out of here. This is a lot of money that went rushing down into the water. You know what you don't see in the passage, and it's strange. It's strange because it doesn't compute in our modern minds. You know what Jesus doesn't do? He doesn't stop and say, right, there's the pigs and there's the demons. Time out. Just give me a second. Jesus, just give me a second, everybody. Jesus says, I'm going to go consult with the herdsmen. They own the pigs. And I'm just going to explain the situation because I really think they'll probably understand. And I tell you what, I'll explain to them that you're very strong. I mean, it's clear that you've got some kind of just crazy strength. You're breaking chains and shackles. You could be of some serious use on the farm. And I will explain to them that while this will cost 2,000 pigs, clearly you could be indebted to them and work this off, and you could just spend your life, serving there on the farm. You could be a huge help. Jesus doesn't even bother to consult these guys about their pigs. I mean, it's not even right. Well, I mean, the only thing that makes it okay is that Jesus owns everything. So Jesus can do whatever Jesus wants, right? The other thing is that Jesus is really wise, and he knew that the people would pick the pigs over the man. People wanted this guy gone. They didn't want him free. They would have never given up 2,000 perfectly good pigs for such a screwed up individual like this. But you know what? Jesus didn't even question it. He valued this man. Maybe you feel like no one's ever valued you. Maybe you feel like there's no one would give 1 cent to see you set free. You know that we can want this story. We can say, oh, I wish I had this story, the pigs. We have something so much greater than that. God so loved us that he gave his only son. It wasn't pigs that died for our salvation, for our freedom. It was the sinless, spotless Lamb of God, whose blood was shed, whose body was torn to pieces as he gave himself up for you and I. That's the testimony we have. And what's easy to do is sit there and think to yourself, oh, if I had that man's testimony, wow, I would proclaim it. It's pigs. Guys, pigs. We have something greater than that. And then Jesus finally, he doesn't just value this man. He doesn't just engage him and encounter him and deliver him. He commissions him. He gives him a role to play. Can you imagine the thought of that? That no one would have never crossed their mind that this guy could have ever done anything remotely helpful. And Jesus gives him real value and real purpose. And if you're here tonight and you don't know Jesus, if you're watching this and you don't know Jesus, do you know why you're watching this? Do you know why you're here? Because Jesus is encountering you. He is encountering you, and he's not just observing you so he can sit back and write a few notes. He wants to engage you. And he's not just going to, engage you and then give you some tough love. He wants to deliver you. He wants to show you how valuable you are, that he gave up his own self for you. And actually, you can't believe this right now, but Jesus has a purpose for you. And he has brought you to hear this because he wants you to know that he's made you for mission. He's made you for a purpose, and he wants to commission you. Don't worry about that bit now. Right now, what you need to do is see that Jesus is after you. Maybe there's another group here that's like the man once Jesus had delivered him, and now he wants to get in the boat. They just want to just escape. I used to speak on a lot of cross-cultural missions, and I'm telling you, you're not going to meet a bigger supporter of that. We are just so humbled and so thankful for those who do that. And my mantra, though, used to be this, if you haven't heard of stay, you've heard of go. And I would still absolutely 100% agree, but I would not make that go geographical. I would say that we've all heard of go, but it could be that some of us here tonight, while we've waited for a go that's been to another country, we've heard a go home. And we've just, oh no, that can't be Jesus. I don't need a passport for that. It couldn't be Jesus. Here's the thing, because what we started, Jesus is in control of his mission. Here's the staggering thing. Jesus told this man to go home. He told his disciples to go to the nations. The thing is, the speaker is the same. It's Jesus. And for Jesus, if he told us to go home, it carries as much weight and as much authority, as much power, and we need as much prayer, we need as much intentionality, we need all the things we would need if he told us to go to Africa. We need. A go home from Jesus is still a go. But we don't really take it that seriously. And that's the problem. That's maybe why so many of the people in our cities don't even know we have a story of meeting Jesus. Because we don't see the intentionality that we're meant to live with. If I was going to be sent to a foreign country, I'd be busy learning the language and working hard and studying and praying and please asking all my friends and fellow brothers and sisters to pray for me. God sent me. He's going to send me. I'd be taking all this initiative. If he tells you to go home, it's the same authority. It's the same weight. And maybe, just maybe, our churches would have a lot more effectiveness if we lived like that on a day-to-day basis. Jesus sent this man away, but it was sending nonetheless. Acts 17 tells us that that God has predestined the exact times and places in which we live. You know what that means? It means we should stop being so grumpy about where we live because God put us there. Stop complaining about your coworkers and stop complaining about your neighbors because God put them there too. And stop wondering why your prayers for your neighbors to be struck by lightning and your coworkers to get fired, stop wondering why the prayers aren't being answered. Because God put you there and God put them there. And actually get on with the reason that you're there. Stop wishing you were somewhere else. You are where you are right now. That's where you are. And you can only be a missionary where you are. Jim Elliot, this great, incredible missionary, said, wherever you're at, be all there. Because he wanted to be in Ecuador. He wanted to be with this tribe. He was desperate to be there, but he kept finding himself back in America. And this tension of, I want to be with them, and he would live with this incredible intentionality while he was in another country. And he finally realized, actually, I should live like that no matter where I'm at. Wherever I'm at, I should be all there because God wants me there. And where you're at is where God wants you. You know, the enemy doesn't mind you going to church. He doesn't mind you even going to a conference. As long as you walk away going, oh, that was nice. What's for lunch? He doesn't mind you and I talking about mission, reading about mission, thinking about mission, even majoring in mission, calling ourselves co-mission. He doesn't care as long as it remains theory and doesn't become reality. As long as we always make mission something that someone else does over there, not something that you and I do right now, right here. As long as it stays fantasy and never becomes reality, he is just fine. And then one day we wake up and realize that all we did was fantasize. Well, we'll see him with his nail-scarred hands and feet. And realize that it wasn't pigs, it was the Son of God who gave himself for us. What a story we have to tell. Brothers and sisters, we were made for mission. We must assume that where God has put us right now, he has strategically put us there because he wants us on mission right there. And maybe God will send you to another country somewhere someday. But if he hasn't yet, guess where you are? Right where he wants you. Right where he wants you. And you know what is crazy is we start thinking that if we move to another country, oh, how different we would be. Oh, we'd start getting nicknames like, John the Baptist #2. And I mean, you just can't believe what we would live like if we could just be over there. And it's such a fantasy. We might live that way for a week or two or a month or two, but then it would all come back to reality. And we'd be the same selfish, sinful person that we are right now. Actually, right now, you're being what you would be like anywhere else in the world. Be all there. Be on mission. And then the final thing I want to just commend us to is back to the crowd choosing the pigs over the man. Mission is messy. And you can't even realize what your church could be like if a whole load of these people started showing up getting saved. I mean, you pray for that, but then you would be praying for something else, right? Because it's messy. It's messy. He has saved some people through our church that no one ever thought would get saved. And you know what? They're messy. But I thank God for it. You have to watch your hearts. Because if this starts to happen, it's going to change things. And watch out for that attitude in your heart that creeps in where you start beginning to pine for the old days. It was easier to pray for them when they weren't around. Right? Just remember this, because this is in us. It's not, this terrible people. It's in our hearts. It's in our own hearts. We never choose the pigs over the man. We never choose clean, organized, over broken, hurting people coming and meeting Jesus. What I'd like to do now is have the band come up, and I'd like us to stand together, and I want to pray for us. And then after the band plays and we all sing together, I'm going to come back up, and we're going to bring the prayer team up, and we're going to get a chance to pray for you. If you're here and you're not saved, you don't know Jesus, we're going to have a chance to pray with you and talk with you about that. And then if you're on the other side of that and you're saying, man, I'm actually more like the guy who wanted to get away from the mission. I'd happily go to another country. I just don't want to go home and tell my friends. That's your worst nightmare. We want to pray for you as well. You might be feeling a sense of guilt. You might be feeling discouragement. You might be feeling overwhelmed. We want to pray for you. And that'll be a huge privilege. But the first thing we want to do is just go for it, worshiping Jesus, the spotless Lamb who was slain for you and I. So why don't we stand together?